Mike Sahat. 10 seconds. Right on the set. 5 seconds. You're live.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Fire Station Building Committee meeting on December 16th, 2024. We are recording this and broadcasting on local stations. Ask if anybody else is recording. Nope. Okay. So as we call to order the meeting, we have one piece of business to take care of, and that's the review and approval of the last meeting minutes that Heather had sent out after this last meeting from the November 18th. So if there's any questions or changes need to be made, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. If no other discussions, and all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, voted. So, the rest of tonight, and as well as tomorrow night, we're devoting to interviews from the owner project manager firms for to help us out with this project as we move forward here. So, tonight we're starting off with Left Field in here. So, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourselves first so that I get a feel for who I'm speaking to? And
Okay,
then
I'm Mark Imsey. I'm the chairman of the committee.
I'm Greg Bowling. I'm the vice chair.
Matthew Ruffley, just regular member.
Joe Chanette, member.
Scott Kittredge, member.
Tim Onderdonk, member.
Chris P.S. member.
Glenn Johnson, member. Sean Steele, member.
Heather Fortunato, member, secretary.
Hey, Kevin Kennedy, member.
Great, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to interview as your OPM for the new headquarters for the town of Auburn. We put together a small agenda. The agenda is going to include introductions of Left Field, our project team, key differences that make us shine outside of any other OPM. We're going to talk about our project experience, a real in-depth look at your project and an understanding of that, and then why Left Field, and then hopefully we'll get right into your questions and answers. With that, I'd like to just talk a little bit about Left Field. Left Field is a one principal owned company. We're local. We're a small firm that gives the attention of detail and quality that each town needs to make sure they build a quality facility. There's 28 project managers. We have 13 clerk of the works. We have 3 MEP specialists, which we brought one with us just to give you a little insight of his depth of knowledge and what expertise he's going to give you towards your project. We have a design group that actually does design reviews and just doesn't say it. And then we have business strategy. We have move management staff that will help the transition once the facility is built. And then the internal component that we have in-house is that we do a great job with the process of getting a positive yes vote when it comes to town meetings. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. With the next slide, I'd like to just introduce our team. And the team that's in front of you is the team that you're going to see not only from today's interview, but all the way through closeout and hopefully the process of ribbon cutting at that point. Jim Rogers, as I indicated, is the principal. He would have loved to have been here, but he had a death of his father-in-law, and he's dealing with that family issue today. But you know, the team that's in front of you is a team that you're going to see every day. With that, I'm going to just let Kevin give a quick introduction.
Sure, thanks, Joe. My name is Kevin Sullivan, not related to Joe Sullivan or Connor Sullivan. I'd be serving as a project executive. As the PX, I'd be just working to support Jay, Joe, Connor, and Alyssa, just to make sure this project has everything it needs to move forward successfully. A little bit about myself. Prior to working for Left Field, I worked for another OPM firm specializing in public safety projects for a couple of years. And prior to that, I was actually on the owner's side for 14 years, overseeing about 150 public construction projects. And I think this team are, those lessons learned, challenges, and overall strategies from quite a few public construction projects.
Thanks. I'm Joe Sullivan. I will be a day-to-day. I've been in the business for a little over 37 years. I've had the privilege and expertise of dealing with 13 different fire stations in the Commonwealth. I've done 9 public safety, and I've done 6 police stations. So I've had, as far as first responders are concerned, I have a great depth of knowledge at what you need, what it's going to take to get you from today right through closeout and ribbon cutting. I'm MCPPO certified. I have my unrestricted construction supervisor's license. I'm a candidate for my building commissioner's license. So I've been working in the construction field for a long time. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Alyssa.
Hi everyone, Alyssa Shatani. I'll be serving as one of your project managers. I've been working alongside Joe for almost my whole career. I graduated from WPI right down the road and went back and got my MBA. I'm also a certified construction manager and I specialize in public safety projects. Connor?
My name's Connor Sullivan. I'll be serving as your project manager as well, alongside Alyssa, Joe, and Kevin. And starting in the business a few years ago, I started right off the bat with public safety buildings, Northbridge Fire Station, which is fairly local, Brockton Public Safety, and Bridgewater Fire Station. Those are just a few under my belt as of today, and I'm looking forward to bringing my 2 cents and effort towards this project.
Thanks. Jay, and most of all, I want you to really introduce Jay's a wealth of knowledge. He's full of energy, and I'd like to have him give a quick introduction.
Also the last one on the list. My name's Jay Faxon. I am Left Field's MVP guy, one of them. I've been with them going on 11 or 12 years now, I don't know. I've been in the HVAC trades and the construction trades for 50 years. And it's really a pleasure to be here tonight and to meet you people. And it's always a pleasure for me to work on new construction and make sure that you get a building that works perfectly right out of the gate for the next 30 or 50 years.
Thanks, Jay. Further than that is the team in front of you is the team that you're going to have the day-to-day contact with, but we're deeper than that. We have an internal scheduler that'll make sure that, not only the scheduling portion of what the architect's planning on doing, but we're going to forecast and actually detail a schedule out that's actually going to meet your expectations to not only get you to the Maytown vote, but also get you through the planning, construction, bidding, and closeout of the project. In addition to that, we have a design review team, and it's a matter of 3 to 5 people. We do a page turn in-house, look at the drawings from conceptual design development, 90%, then just before bidding, to make sure that we're catching any incidental items that may not be detailed on the plans that may be in the specifications, or have specifications that may be missed that are in the detailed construction plans. And they really take a strong effort to make sure that we try to minimize what's missed, because we all know when something's missed on a set of drawings, it's a change order. And I hate change orders more than anything you can imagine. Your money is my money, and I hate spending my money. So I'm going to make sure that we're going to make sure your drawings are as close and accurate as we can. And also what we have is move management specialists in-house. Connor's going to talk a little bit about that process and what that means to the town of Auburn. The good news is you're building a new station, so you're not going to displace any of your current facilities. But we also have to take into clear consideration which each aspect of what's going to be detailed as we decide to start to move as little or as much equipment from one station to the new. And with that, I'd like to just turn it over to Connor for the move management discussions.
I'm actually going to pass it over to
Oh,
Jay.
I'm sorry, Jay.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good. Passing the ball.
Hey, how's it going? I don't think this was my slide, but move
Oh,
management.
no, he did MVP.
Oh,
I'm
the
sorry.
MVP, sorry.
I'm sorry, I jumped a slide, sorry.
Oh, you did. So that's what we do right there, right? We've, these 3 guys, myself, Carlos. Carlos is a professor at Mass Maritime College. I've known him for 30 years. He's a first engineer also. I have my steam engineering license also. Brendan is relatively new to our team, brings a wealth of knowledge and management skills, and he's got some MEP, really good MEP experience. We talked about plan review. I look at all of drawings for almost every job. I look at all the mechanicals. I get to know the people that we're building this thing for, their needs, and I oversee the construction, I do quality checks and make sure that the mechanical contractors are installing your equipment the correct way, per manufacturer's recommendations. I do site visits, I write up field reports, and try to be as thorough as possible when I walk a job. I look at every nut and bolt that's going in there. I also oversee some of the commissioning, and when you guys turn this building over, we've done a lot of fire stations, police stations, and schools. We turn them over, I usually stay behind and help train facilities guys on the new BMS system, show them, if they're looking at something on the BMS, I show them where that is in the building, and help them get acclimated to a new building and how to run it. So it's an important thing, and that's part of it I really enjoy anyway.
And I apologize for that. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the move management.
One of Leftfield's specialties is move management. That starts early on. We'll meet with Chief and his department to identify any items that will be moving over from the existing building over into the new building, as well as scheduling a preliminary pre-construction meeting with any potential bidders that would like to bid to perform this move for the town of Auburn. And that entails them showing up to the site, walking the site, both sites, typically it would be the existing site and the new site, just so they get eyes on the ground and they know what they're expecting, and we can set the right expectations not only for the team here, but as well as the potential movers. And that includes any protection on the building. We want to identify areas, high traffic hallways, putting any kind of protective measures on door frames or corners like that, because a lot of the time we've seen in the past that if there isn't any protection set up prior to the move, you'll get the gouges, and then it's a pointing game, he said, she said kind of situation that we do not want to deal with. So that takes out a lot of that situation. In addition, I will be there every day throughout this move. And we want to make sure that the department and the town is set up for success throughout this whole process. There can be a lot of gray area with expectations and movers, but we want to make sure, and we're going to make sure, with all this extra meetings time with the actual movers, that there shouldn't be any hiccups at all.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
And with that, we're going to talk a little bit about communications. The good news is, I've visited your headquarters, I've visited your substation, and, I've had some, clear understanding of what, you're going to need communications-wise for your new station. The good news is we have in-house consultant that actually looks at, whether a microwave system's going to be needed, whips are going to be needed, or a tower's going to be needed. Look, thankfully, you have great reception. You have, internal components already in place where I don't think a lot of the communications is going to be an issue. It's a matter of just making sure that the placement of specific equipment within the facility is placed in a proximity where we get good reception on that. But we'll ensure and test and go through that process to make sure, with our consultant, to make sure that we're meeting all of those expectations. With the next slide, I just want to talk about, our allocation of time. The good news is, Town of Auburn's going to get 75% of my time. And what does that mean to the town? That means that you're going to have the day-to-day contact, and I give out my cell phone. If you look at any number on that card, that's my cell phone. 24/7. I encourage you to talk to Millbury, Northbridge, and any other reference that I give you. That they call me 24/7. Chief White, I can tell you, thankfully, my wife knows his voice at 6:30 in the morning when he has a call coming in, and we do that for a reason, because I take it very seriously, and it's all about relationships and making sure we build a quality building. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting clarity about a particular portion of the construction or a question some of the public may have come up with. With that, we also have Kevin's going to have 25% of his time allocated to this. Alyssa's actually going to designate 30% of her time. And as Alyssa said earlier, we've worked very closely together. She sometimes finishes my sentences as we're moving forward, and that's how close we've gotten through this. She's very detailed. I always say she's the rope that keeps me tied to make sure that we're doing a great job as we move forward. Connor's going to have 50% interest. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Connor's going to have 50% interest in working with this project. So we're dedicating this team so that we have enough time allocated. Jay, he's like literally, he's dedicated to this project, and it's more than what shows on the screen. There's not a time that I won't be able to call him or ask him to come over where he doesn't make the time available. And that's the difference between Left Field and a lot of the other OPM firms. It's always an extra for them to add other services. We're not like that. That's
Like Joe said, we're always available. You guys will have all our phone numbers, and any questions come up, concerns or anything, you give us a call. We always answer.
right. Appreciate it. And the next slide is just a orientation of all of the towns and cities that we've worked in through the Commonwealth. As you can see, there's a number of different ones. We've listed in our presentation and the handout that you have there. So any questions you might have related to them, I encourage you to do so. The next slide is just indicating some of the public municipal general construction that we've done throughout the Commonwealth. I can tell you, you know, understanding Left Field's great management process, they manage some of the largest projects in the Commonwealth. But that doesn't mean they don't take on specific projects and manage them as well. That's the reason why, you know, I joined the team, because it became more of a situation that I want to build a relationship and provide quality oversight on project management as we move forward.
I may want to say one quick thing on that note there is, you know, we've actually turned jobs down because we didn't have the manpower, right? And if we know we can't handle that job, we will not go for it. We have the manpower here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next slide is, it's going to give a little bit of description of some of the experience we have with fire stations. Jay, why don't you talk a little bit?
So a couple of these jobs, the Wakefield one was a fully occupied fire station and a fully occupied police station. We added a whole wing onto that building. All the time during construction, there was no interruption of the services for the police and the fire. And I would go to that job once or twice a week and have a lot of contact with the chief and the facilities guys there. And if there was ever any problem, we took care of it right away. The Pinehurst Fire Station, that's a 3 or 4 year old station now. We did radiant floor heat in all the bays. We did a radiant heat up there, and one of my things being in the trades for my whole career, right, is, you know, I look at the way radiant floor piping is installed. I make sure that it's installed correctly. It's not going to chafe or crack or get bent or get damaged under the slab, right? We make sure everything's installed perfectly when we do it. A couple lessons learned on that building there is, you know, we did an ERV with VAV boxes for each bunks. I wouldn't recommend that so much. I didn't design it, but I wouldn't recommend it. We can talk about, you know, having individual temperatures for each bunk room, because firefighters and police, you know, firefighters especially like to have, you know, 55-degree air at night when they're sleeping, or some of them like it really warm, right? So we want to have that option for you guys.
Great. Thanks, Jay. And I just wanted, Northbridge is on here as well, and you know, it's you know, I consider that a similar fire station for a number of different reasons. But Northbridge, they went through some really significant challenges with this particular project. They had designated a site, but you know, as we got into it, we started to actually do some clear, consistent evaluation of the site. We found a lot more ledge within that facility than we anticipated. We worked through. And believe it or not, we bid this and built it through the pandemic. And we all know what happened through the pandemic. The costs associated in 2019 to the time we actually finished had exceeded and excelled, you know, $500 a square foot. And how did we deal with that as we moved forward? Never mind finding components and parts and material that, you know, they weren't being produced or they were next to impossible to get. We had 18 months to build a building, and, you know, we find out 6 months into it that the switchgear is not going to be available for another 8 to 9 months. And what did that do to our overall schedule? Well, the differentials between us and any other OPM, I think, out of the box. So I literally reached out to that file subcontractor. We had a meeting with that contractor, and it was Griffin Electric, who's a pretty big electrical contractor. And we actually were able to buy the components for the switchgear in 3 different locations and had them shipped over. And we were able to actually get into that building a month early rather than being 4 months late. those are the type of level of detail that we'll get into to try to resolve some of the, challenges and issues that we come up with. The next slide is going to talk a little bit about, the Brockton Public Safety. Kevin, why don't you give a
Sure.
little?
Thanks, Joe. So I want to spend a moment just talking about the Brockton Public Safety Facility. It's actually a project that I worked on with Joe and Connor. Very large, complicated project, almost 200,000 square feet, including the garage. And it was complicated because it impacted a number of key stakeholders. It was police, fire, emergency management, and IT. And it was also designed and put out to bid, right around pandemic. So the challenges with cost escalation and inflation was certainly very tough to navigate through. That being said, it was incredibly rewarding. And the number one reason why it was so rewarding is specifically working with Brockton Fire Department and knowing that we were going to be moving them from a building, and I'm not exaggerating, that was literally wired by Thomas Edison into a state-of-the-art facility. It was just something I'm really proud of, and just a great project.
Kevin reminded me about I realized, and this was after the ribbon cutting, the Northbridge Fire Department had never had a fire station in 250 years. Can you imagine that? Like, I was like part of that process to actually give them a facility they could be proud of moving forward. And just by saying that, Thomas Edison, it just, it rang a bell. Sharon Public Safety, I'm going to talk briefly on that. That was probably one of the more complex projects that I had done. There was a DPW facility that we were actually building a new police and fire at. We knocked down part of the emergency management, put a police station. Then the issue with the fire station is once we put it in place, the designer didn't build in a recovery system to the apparatus bay. And people looked at me like, well, why is that important? You should have a heating system that should cover it. Well, it didn't. And the reason being is that when you fall under 3 degrees temperatures, and I'm sure Auburn hits those at times, you throw the doors open, your ambient temperature drops significantly. Ambulances need 65 degree or warmer to keep their medical equipment safe and operational within their ambulances. So the Chief White was beside himself at how he was going to try to maintain that because the temperatures took forever to recover based on the radiant heat. I came up with an idea with the engineers of Reckitt. I said, well, we have an exterior, we had 2 boiler systems, one for the radiant heat, one for the apron. I said, what if we put a bypass on the apron and did a couple of Modine units, fed it off of there so we wouldn't have to feed the equipment. We originally got a price of $160,000 to redo that system. It cost us $8,000 to make that switch over and be able to provide 2 Modine units to be able to make that recovery. That's the out-of-the-box thinking that, I provide along with our team to make sure that the town gets what they need at a minimum cost and impact to it as we run into change orders. And the next slide is just a few more fire stations that we've done. Town of Carver is a call fire station. It actually won an award for the most efficient. You have a training facility, and I actually, when I visited the sites, you have a training facility, and it's so important and critical to the operation and the functionality of how firefighters actually do their job. Things have changed over the last 5 years, and actually how firefighters fight fires, and having those training facilities gives them the opportunity to do that. Millbury was another one that we've walked into that project, and it was 90% complete on design. And we came in and we didn't even have a chance to do a design review until it was almost out to bid. But I noticed immediately that they were 7 feet higher than they needed to be because the apparatus were going to bottom out or hit the bumper or the rear bumper as they left the original design. So before we went out to bid, we created an addendum and was able to reduce the site. But to reduce the site, we hit ledge, just like any other town within this area. And I negotiated out a contract not to exceed a certain value to remove all of the ledge that was within that site and not create change order after change order as we found it. And we saved the town, I want to say it was almost $110,000 based on that negotiation. And I encourage you to call any of one of the chiefs. They'll talk to you and tell you the innovative ways that we try to resolve issues as we move forward. With the next slide, I'm going to talk about the public safety experience that we have. You can see a number of them, and I want to be very specific. I came to Leftfield, but I also managed projects for another firm for a long period of time. Most of these projects, I was either the project manager or the project executive on every one of them. I encourage you to call any one of these references, and they'll tell you the type of management that we do and the type of process that we handle each of these projects with. You can see the depth of fire stations. They vary from cities to towns, and each of them, believe it or not, each fire department has their own little niche at how they deal with fire. Getting to know the town of Auburn, I'm gonna work the same with you to make sure that we're meeting not only your program needs, but your budget restraints that you're gonna have, because you have one shot at this. We wanna make sure we get it right.
All right, now we'll talk a little bit about your project, the reason why we're here tonight. So again, Joe and I had an opportunity to look at both of your sites. We understand that you'll be building a new 31,000 square foot headquarters at the 10 Prospect Street, which you just demoed, the old steakhouse. And we're going to be brought on to assist with the final stages of conceptual and design development. And we understand you're going for a May 2025 meeting. So we'll be with you there the whole time, trying to figure out what does this building actually cost and to bring that to the voters. And through that time, we'll focus on engaging with the community, informing them about this project, doing community forums, abutters meetings, and just making sure that the town has a buy-in on this project and that they understand the details of it, that we're building a cost-effective building that meets the operations. So we understand there's going to be, the current headquarters is going to turn into the new Fire Station 2, and then your old Fire Station 2 will be returned to the school district. So we want to abide by your project goals. We want to be on time, on budget, and have the highest quality, and we believe that this is the team to do that for you. We'll make sure that during the design process, we're selecting durable and sustainable building materials, and this can mean as well as efficiency, meeting the LEED criteria for the building. Whatever goals that you want to reach with the sustainability, we will help you get there. We are aware that you have a 4-minute response time that you want to preserve with the 2 fire station buildings, with the new headquarters, and then the current headquarters turning into Fire Station 2. Between our consultant and our team here, we're going to help you coordinate with your dispatch, IT, radio equipment, whatever it takes to get you up and running. We've done it time and time again successfully. We've had meetings in rooms with all the subcontractors at the end. We're going into that IT room, that MDF room, and you have various racks in there, and we actually mark out who gets what, who's going to be in there on what day, and really closely manage that process to make sure that your building opens up on time. We also understand you want this to be a building that lasts a long time, 75 years or more, and we're very ready to do that for you. Our whole team is MCPPO certified. We're aware of design, bid, build, and CMR, whichever process and project approach you're open to. We're going to figure that out with you as we go. And Connor will talk more about that process as well. But we just wanted you to know we read the RFQ, we visited the site, we understand the project, and we really want to help you get there to this vote, constructing and furnishing this new fire headquarters.
Thanks, Alyssa. I just want to talk a little bit about the management of the, well, you just did site logistics, right?
Your site
No, I'm
logistics.
sorry, site logistics. Talk a little bit about your site. I think the location couldn't be better for the headquarters. The proximity of being able to go, out either main roadway to get to the town and service it is essential and is great. I don't think you're going to need the whole site. I think the locality of where you're proposing it through Tectron, the designer is great. I think, we got to deal with, obviously, the entrance and the exit going onto Prospect Street as we exit onto there, and any type of emergency lighting or signaling that we might need for that opportunity. I do understand the building itself and the dynamics of what you do and don't have right now. I visited, as Alyssa said earlier, and I told you that each of the buildings, and just seeing how the apparatus, how your gear lockers are out in the apparatus space, how you don't have a separation or carcinogens from the apparatus to living quarters. These are all things that I take very seriously, and we're going to make sure that we have those separations and it's safe for the firefighters. As simple as proximity time to get from their living quarters to the apparatus, what the efficiencies are going to be built into those locations. These are all things that we're going to take into very clear consideration as to the flow of how that happens. Whether we're putting a stock room close to the apparatus so the ambulance can be restocked and not have them have to go through halfway through the station of the living quarters to get materials of that nature. Also making the fire station a warm and inviting facility for public to go and see the fire department for any needs that they might have. I know for a fact that a lot of fire stations need specific equipment, and if you're building it for the next 50 years, we're going to make sure that, you got our maintenance room within the apparatus that they can service certain things. Your bottle fill-up room for your natural air. You're going to have your drops for your vehicle exhaust systems, where those go, where water lines go to fill the trucks after an event. Having the drains actually pitch and the water actually gets to a drain, and actually goes outside. These are all things that, you don't have that clearly was identified in some of the stations. But I know all of those nuances and details that will help the designer with our experience to make sure that you get a good set of drawings before it goes out to bid. Next is, cost estimating and how important that is. We work closely with a cost estimating team. They're very fluent with what it takes to build a fire station, what the costs are with that. They're a phone call away whenever we have a question on a change order as we move forward, and we're going to strategically do cost estimates throughout this process. You have a robust design right now giving you some layouts, but we're probably going to do a takeoff on that to make sure that you're meeting at whatever budget expectation you're planning on being at. But then we're gonna do one at, further down the line, 60%, 90%, and just recap it at before it goes out to bid. And we're gonna analyze any cost associated with change orders. As I indicated, we don't like them as much as anybody. With the next one, I just want to talk schedule. I'm aware that you're trying to get to May town meeting, and the purpose of that is to make sure that you have, and I said this early on to our team, we need to make sure it's robust enough, so you can't go back to town meeting more than once. You want to make sure you get a value associated with whatever it's going to be to build this building, and be able to perform not only the program needs that you have, but make sure that the community understands why, there's wants, wishes, and needs. We want to make sure the wants and the needs are there, and address the wishes as we move forward, because as the chief indicated, he's got one shot at this. We're going to make sure that all of the program and equipment needs are done, and we're going to try to address based on the budget and the contingency that we have, just to make sure that we try to fulfill those wishes, those wishes as he moves forward on it. Construction, we're anticipating it to be anywhere between 16 and 18 months based on that size facility. Planned construction, with all reality, most contractors are asking for a longer period of time. And, you ask why. The real reason is just getting the manpower and equipment to be able to handle it within 18 months. We're going to reach out and do a lot of outreach for subcontractors and generals to make sure that we get the contractors that build great fire stations for you. One of the biggest avenues, and we're going to talk a little bit about whether it's design, bid, build, or CM at risk, and that's a decision that will give you all the information so you can make a good educated decision. But getting the right subcontractors in general will make or break whether this project is successful at the end. We do a lot of pre-qualifications to this group that are out there, and we do a lot of acknowledgement to let them know that it's coming relatively soon to the market. Next slide is the project approach. We talked a little bit about this, and
Jump in, give Joe a breather here. So, I just want to spend a moment or so, I think Alyssa and Joe have alluded to it, is just construction methodology. So, in the Commonwealth, public construction, the two most common for this type of project would be design, bid, build, or construction manager at risk. And I vividly remember, when I started building schools 18 years ago, almost everything was designed and built. The past 5 years or so, maybe the past 5 to 10 years, construction manager at risk is becoming more and more popular and common. That being said, as you can see, there's advantages and some would say disadvantages to both. Timing is everything. Having a good project team is everything. And I don't really want to debate them or even get into the pros and cons right now. What I will say is that left field, and especially the team in front of you, has an abundance of experience with both design, bid, build, and CM at risk. We've done quite a few projects in both methodologies, and we would love the opportunity to sit down with your team and eventually the architect to talk about which approach is more suitable for your project.
Great, thanks, Kevin. The next one, we talked about design review. I think we talked about it with a few of the other slides, so I'm not going to get into too much detail. I know we're pressing for time, and you have questions that you want to ask us. But we do a detailed review, and it's lessons learned. I have a 2-page, both sides of paper, of change orders and design errors and omissions that have happened in the past. And I take that list and actually review your drawings with it to make sure there's no repeat offenders. Architects are great, engineers are great, but there are cut and paste situations that occur from one design to another, and I don't like repeat offenders, so we make sure we go through that. That was the whole purpose of that, just talking about that. And that's similar goes to change order management. I identify with our team every category that's out there, whether it's owner-initiated, inspector, errors and omissions from a designer, whether it's a contractor issue or site-related issue. We identify it, we categorize it, and we keep the committee well-informed on a monthly basis based on our report, how we handle that moving forward. And schedule management, I'm big on schedule, and the reason, and I said that to you, we scheduled 18 months. The only way to save money and stay within budget is to stay on schedule. So we manage schedule right from the get-go, from the designer right through construction, and ask for updates on a regular basis. We have meetings periodically with the owner, we meet with the department, and we meet with the designer separately. And you may ask why you lose efficiency by doing that. Well, you actually don't. I actually get to hear the dirt and the nitty-gritty of each of the parties' issues or concerns that they might have and come up with resolutions to try to resolve it so that it picks up the schedule, make sure that we meet the timelines and the deadline of deliverables that we're looking for. And then the last question is why left field? We've got significant experience in public safety, as you can see on the documentation that we gave you. $2.6 billion of public construction has been completed with left field. Significant in-house MEP. As I said, Jay's humble, believe me. The wealth of knowledge that he has, I wish he was next to me at every single project meeting that we have. He's just, it's an insurmountable.
I don't know, will ya?
And then our experienced team, over 100 years of experience combined based on what we have here. We're locally owned, independent firm whose reputation is built on staff's good work. And I said this, quality and reputation and relationships. That's what it comes down to. With that, I'm looking forward to your questions. Hopefully I didn't talk too much. I apologize.
Give instructions to the committee.
Yeah, so the committee members, we have sheets that we handed out to everybody with a bunch of questions. We narrowed it down to 5 that we want to stay on, and we may get to more, but obviously timing is everything here, so that we need to try to keep it on an even keel for everybody, so we'll be running through those.
So they need to score it.
Yeah, and as we're going, you can see in the gray area, there is a scoring on there, so we will be scoring, because we do have to give to the town manager after we're done tomorrow night, our 3 top firms, so that he can go and
We strive for high scores, by the way.
negotiate the awarded contract.
Mr. Chair, just I imagine these also become part of the record of the entire process, so
Correct.
Yeah.
these get turned in as part of the record.
Yeah, so you'll need to put your name on the sheet, and we'll need to collect them at the end of tomorrow.
Right.
Just regards of people being cautious
Yep.
as to what they write down as being turned in as part of a public record.
All right. First up, what do you see as the largest challenge that this project faces?
There's a number of different things that I actually, visiting the site, the locality of where it is, I think, first thing I saw is when I got out of the parking lot, looked over, I saw ledge and a rock. You don't know which one it is. I think we need to really look at, the site and do some exploratory, borings or test pits just to really identify it. Make sure you have your documentation, your specifications and your plans, really identify any of those or any of those details so that you can create an absolute cost associated with it. Additionally to that is the cost of what it costs to actually construct a building today. There's a number of different, mechanical, electrical, and civil engineers that are going to be involved with this project. You have a great architect, and you have a great team associated with them. I also know their strengths and weaknesses, and I want to make sure that we go through those plans to date to make sure that we we find efficiencies as we move forward. I think your discharge onto Prospect Street, if that's the direction that the apparatus is going to go, the bays have to, face that direction, and how we're going to, based on that hillside, how we're going to bring it down and make that work for the overall department. The internal components of a building are essential. You can build a structure until you get everything put in place. You don't realize the uh-ohs. So I want to make sure that with this building, and you're at a good point with the set of drawings, it gives us the opportunity to do our design review, to, like a water feed being on the wrong side of the truck. That's a $30,000 fix to try to fix. We're going to try to catch. Those are the things that, the problems that I see, as you're moving from now to construction. I think the locality couldn't be better as far as the central location of where you're putting the station. And that's pretty much what we see to date without really getting deeper into the drawings.
Okay.
Yeah, that's too.
Yeah. So what is your plan to support the town vote, and how does that timeline compare to the projects you've worked on recently?
I can tell you,
It's a big one.
with the projects that we've worked with, we have a very high success rate to getting projects approved. And how do we do that? Between now and May, there's a lot of public outreach that we're going to have. And what does that mean that to the town of Auburn? We're going to have public forums. We're going to have, informational sessions, because the more information and transparency you get out there, the more support that people love firemen, by the way. You're going to get more support for a fire station than you do any other facility. Schools are probably right along that same line. But at the end of the day, the fire department, if they look at what they currently have, and you do a, video, and I'm sure you've done it in the past, just showing the need for it, it shows the expertise that you're trying to get them in the facility that they deserve. One of the items that, just reaching out to the residents and really asking them, their opinion about certain things, because everybody's opinion matters. I mean, every person's opinion needs to be heard. It doesn't necessarily mean it is relevant to the project, but as long as you give articulate a clear reasoning for something, they become supportive of it. We've had projects where we've had the biggest naysayers. I mean, that person every town meeting that stands up and says no, and we've had that person actually come, and we invite them to the meeting and turn around and support the project at town meetings. And we do that by transparency, involving them as part of the process as we move forward. And so your answer to timelines, I think it's doable. I think, we need to hit the ground running as soon as you hire us. And, if you're making that decision on Tuesday, just let us know. We'll bring the contract right back.
And just to add to that, that's such a good question. There was a point, again, maybe 15 years ago, what I would remember, maybe 1 out of 30 projects would fail. Right now, 3 or 4 out of 10 are failing. It's really, really challenging out there. People are so sensitive to anything that impacts their taxes. And a great project like this, your average person is going to really buy in and say, this is a great idea, of course we need it, and then they're going to say how much.
Right.
And so that's where we come in, where we over-communicate. When Joe says someone's going to have it, everyone and anyone is going to have our cell phones, but they're going to see the same people week after week, and whether it's a citizen or someone on the Conservation Commission or just any key stakeholders, they're going to have our information. We're going to over-communicate, and we're going to get them solid information early in the process so that they understand, what the impact is, and we can explain that this is a good investment.
A no vote is usually because they don't understand the process, like public procurement. Like, why does it cost $90 an hour for an electrician? We're very transparent and walk them through those processes, and I think that's how you end up, pulling them on your side of the table.
Time check here. We got about 2 minutes. We'd like to get through the last 3 questions, if at all possible.
I'll go quickly.
Yeah.
How do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders? I think including contractors, designers, and internal.
So I'm going to be real quick on it. I said to you, we have meetings separately with all 3 entities to make sure, but we do one step further. We meet with the subcontractors on a subcontractor meeting with the general contractor as we move forward, because you're gonna hear the nitty-gritty of what's going on and the problems on that. Then we go back to the engineers of record and the designers to make sure that they're getting the responses back to move that forward. When a contract makes money, believe it or not, it's a successful project and you get better quality in that project. Our job is to make sure the efficiency associated with the schedule, the contract documents and specifications are accurate so that the construction can happen flawlessly.
And just to add to that, because I think it hasn't been mentioned yet, is we will work with you to create a product website. We like to have one source of truth.
Yeah.
It'll have FAQs, it'll eventually have tax impact information, and it's something that we want to, funnel people so we hear their questions and that they can learn about the project.
And also, we have abutters meetings, and you don't have a lot of residential, but we provide documentation once a week as to what occurred, what's expected to occur, and question and answers that anyone might have.
Okay. Explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure that the project deliverables are met, the owner expects.
Yeah, so I do a lot of quality control, so quick background on me, I come from a family of tradesmen. My father was a carpenter, he was a building inspector, and I look at everything on that job. I look at the floors, the plumbing, the underground. I look at the insulation in the walls, the flashing, the waterproofing. I look at the electrical. I really do a detailed deep dive, and even though I'm just a MEP guy, I look at everything. If I see a sill pitched back into the window, I flag it and I put a level on everything, and there's a lot of detail in our quality inspections.
Yeah, and to Jay's point too, what we end up doing is a lot of window testing to make sure that you're not having any breaches in the windows. We make sure that happens. Our commissioning and testing agencies, we're making sure the concrete breaks are right, the slab quality and the material going in place is what it's called for. Our on-site representatives take the specified material, the submitted and approved material, and make sure it matches before it even gets installed. Because a lot of times they'll try to do substitutions and not say anything, but we try to stay on top of that. And working out a sequence, sometimes quality control works. If structural steel is going to be late, do we pour the slabs and have all the internal underground done so that we maintain schedule, and then we do our protection as we move forward to build that up. So we're very detailed. It's not a monthly task, it's a daily, hourly task that we do on a regular basis.
And a quick one here. What types of grants and other funding sources have been available to secure projects to help offset project costs and stuff?
So, the good news is our team has been very successful over the past 4 years as to thinking out of the box and looking for grant opportunities. Town of Bridgewater was actually short $4.9 million for their project after we received the general contractor bids. I can tell you, the person standing up, they wrote the grant initially, the town, and they got it denied. Alyssa rewrote it with some input from our team, and it was awarded. They ended up getting $4.9 million, and were able to move forward with the construction of that project. I go one step further than that. There's grants out there that our team know of that can buy some specialty equipment for the fire department, whether it's an air machine or whether it's a washer dryer that's currently out there. We'll work closely with the town and the district to make sure that we at least apply and go for every grant imaginable to try to reduce the FF&E associated with this project so that you can put that money back into the construction project. We're not afraid of writing the grants, and we'll sit right beside you to figure out which ones make the most sense and how to get them. I tried to move that quickly, sorry.
That's okay.
That's good.
Yep. I think that's time.
Yep. I think we're at the end of our time, and we need a few minutes recess or whatever for the next people to come in.
First of all, I want to thank everybody.
Thank you.
I take it personally, and obviously this panel does as well, to take it the level of consideration you're doing to make sure you're picking the right group. I can tell you right now, it's about relationships, and it's a team that you got to feel comfortable working with for the next 4 to 5 years, because it's not an 18-month project. It's a year, then 18 months, and then it's not only closeout, it's the warranty period. So you'll be dealing, once we get on site, You can call any one of the Chief White just called me the other night, just asking me a question about something. He's been in the building for a little over a year. We don't go away, and we'll be that team to stay with you right through that process.
All right. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you in recess?
Yeah, we're gonna take a recess while the next team gets set up.
Have a good night.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Mike Sahaj?
All right, now we're out of recess and back in. Now we have CMS, Construction Monitoring Services, in for their presentations and stuff.
Good
The floor
evening.
is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Neil Joyce. I'm principal at Construction Monitoring Services. On behalf of my team here tonight, Steve, please.
Yes, my name is Steve Vaccaro, and I am product manager and project manager and on-site representative.
Scott Lupker, I'm a principal and senior project manager.
Roger Hoyt, an on-site representative.
And on behalf of our team, we're very happy to be here tonight and very excited to discuss our qualifications with you. So a little bit about our background. CMS has been in business for a little over 25 years. We offer exclusively project management services. We have no other source of income at our firm. We do everything in-house with our own staff and team. And we have extensive experience, particularly in public safety and fire stations across the Commonwealth. We're proud to say that greater than 95% of our projects move through the design phase and through construction. We have very few that don't get approved locally. And in over 25 years in business, we have 0 lawsuits and no litigation. So we're very proud of that and really key in on resolving issues before they become out of control. Introduce briefly our project team. You'll hear from each of those as we move through the presentation this evening. Scott and I have been together for more than 15 years working at CMS. Roger joined us about 7 years ago, and I think this is year 3 for Steve. 4. So I think we bring a sense of collaboration among ourselves and also a great familiarity with each other that sets us aside from our competition. In addition, in supporting us in our office is our founding partner, Paul Griffin. He acts as a senior advisor on every project that we do in every municipality that we support. He's a great resource to us and will be to you as well. A little bit about our management approach. We bring 70-plus projects of lessons learned to every client that we represent. We work in a very collaborative manner with our client and with our designer right out of the gate to develop a shared vision and plan with them so that we can bring what we envision to life through each project that we manage. We work with them to develop a workable plan, something that is constructible and efficient, and then bring that efficiency into the execution of the project, understanding that for all of us, time is money. We want to get the project done as quickly and as efficiently as humanly possible. One thing I would like to talk a little bit about is from the OPM perspective, what our project goals and objectives are here. We want to formulate a collaborative team. That is, we want a design partner that's going to work for you and work collaboratively with us. We think you have a great candidate in the firm that did your study in Tecton. We've got extensive experience with them. But we see our role really also to challenge the designer. And that's to work with them to optimize the project and its financial outlook. That is to say, we want to minimize the first cost without sacrificing quality or longevity to the project. We believe very strongly in providing, keeping our committees apprised of every detail of the project at every step of the way. We provide very clear and concise reporting at intervals that are acceptable to this committee, as well as the select board and the general public. And as I said before, we provide comprehensive project management services from initial planning through design and construction. And everything that we do with our own team and our own personnel on board. Some of the things I think are always good to do is to focus on what makes this project unique. We certainly understand that every project is indeed unique. There is no cookie-cutter solution to what you are proposing, and we want to make sure that the project in and of itself is designed to meet your unique goals and objectives. So how do we get there is that we have an understanding of the user groups that will utilize the facility. And that goes from everything from firefighters and first responders to staff and administration, as well as the general public. We focus very strongly on providing a functional and accessible space for you all to work in. We emphasize durability of finishes so that your project will last the 75 years that you've requested it to as part of your RFQ. We look very closely at incorporating technology, and with that technology, we also like to build in flexibility. I use this example a lot. 7 years ago, nobody really knew what teleconferencing was, and today it's something that every company lives by. So I think it's very important in terms of access controls, security, AV and presentation systems, and video conferencing to build those elements into every project that we work in. And then again, part of this function of that fire station is going to be to connect with the community and to create a welcoming environment while maintaining security and safety for the staff and patrons that it comes in. We understand every site is unique. Every site comes with a certain degree of uncertainty. We want to make sure that we're investigating the site thoroughly during the design stage so that we identify any concerns and make sure that we account for those in the best and most economical way to handle those in the project documents. And again, public support or project outreach is also a service that we provide in getting projects marketed, brought out to the public, and advertised in a way that they can understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what it will cost to do it. I spoke to the user groups, understanding that we're building facilities to accommodate multi-gender and multicultural personnel. Again, incorporating functionality, understanding why spaces are needed, what the overall function of that space is, and how the various user groups are going to use it. Working the technology in, and again, connecting with the community. And just to restate, we understand that this project is unique, and it's our commitment to you to make sure that we understand those uniquities. We make sure that we're building this station for your department and your town and your community. And the emphasis for us is to balance schedule, cost, and quality and give you a project that you're expecting. In terms of our understanding of your program and your concept and your timeline, we are currently at the point of selecting the OPM. We believe that you are either under agreement or will be under agreement with Tecton as you move forward. We're anticipating starting schematic design in January with a completed schematic design in time for town meeting in May. We are anticipating a building of approximately 31,600 square feet on a site that has been already selected and cleared by the town. We are expecting an overall project budget of $30 million or less. And we've laid out a schedule, I believe it was in our RFQ, that sort of dictates some key milestones in the project as we move through design and into construction. So at this point, I will turn it over and have Scott walk us through some of the case studies.
Thanks, Dale. So some of these you may have seen in our proposal, but we just wanted to kind of highlight some of our past recent experience, some of which are with Tecton, some aren't. The first one's Lexington Fire Station, which we completed in 2020. This was a design bid build project and kind of had similar in size to what you're proposing. This is 32,500 gross square foot combined. This is a all-electric building built to basically net zero or net zero ready standards with the town going after solar after we finish the project. This was challenging because the site was very small. We also had to do ground improvements on the site, and when we took down the existing building, we found asbestos in the soil, so we had to mitigate that. And we also hit the tail end of COVID, so we had kind of a lull period, but we were able to pick up a lot of we were actually able to pick up time because everything was pre-ordered, and we had a lot of kind of influx of workers that came to the site because it was a essential build. So very successful project. And moving on from that, we had Shrewsbury Police. You want to speak to Shrewsbury, Roger?
Shrewsbury Police Station was a two-phase project. The initial phase was the construction of the new police station. Following that, there was demolition of the existing police station and the remaining site work adjacent to Town Hall. It's a project that was on from the beginning of site work through occupancy. There was supply chain issues where the only real issue was when would the generator come. So the construction management at risk, they were able to work up alternative plans. Actually did arrive on time anyway.
Perfect. And this was a pretty active site, so there was it was phased, and it was again, it was the town hall was right there and the existing police station, so we had to maintain continuity in and out of the site. Next up is Greenfield Fire Headquarters, which we just completed this year. It's 19,000 square foot building, which was a design bid build project, hard bid. This was also all electric building with a propane backup system, and this was set up with EV chargers, and the roof was PV ready. A little bit before that, we finished the Hyannis Fire Station down in Cape Cod. 6 double bay drive-through bays on this project. This was design bid build, 33,000 square feet. This one was very challenging, just the way it was phased, but we brought it in on time and on budget. And the existing station was right adjacent to the new build, and we just basically built around it and to the side of it, and then once they moved in, we took the existing station down. And then just, one of the kind of key challenges in the beginning was just to obtain local funding, which we were able to work with the kind of a marketing scheme, and we're able to bring that through successfully for a successful vote in the community. And right now, we're working on Peabody Police Public Safety. It's police and fire, mostly police, but fire administration. This is a CM at risk project. It's going to be multi-phase construction. We just completed the early site package, clearing the site and removing a ton of material here, about 8,000 cubic yards of ledge, and this is adjacent to the middle school. So we did that work over the summer, while students were out of school, and that was due to just the blasting and kind of the loud noises of that activity. This is about 51,000 square feet, and we're expecting this to be completed in 2027. And then we've had several other public safety projects, as you've probably noticed in our proposal, but we just wanted to add a few more here to note. We did a police and fire station in Rowley that was in a addition renovation to the police station, and then a new fire station build. And then in Dudley, we did an addition renovation. That's the bottom picture. And top right is Sudbury addition to their fire station number 2. And we're currently...
Can you speak to the Sudbury project?
Certainly. Sudbury has a headquarters and then 2 satellite stations. And number 2 and number 3 stations were built in the 1960s. So you can imagine how antiquated they were, or are, and how cramped they were. To give you an understanding, there was a single bedroom, 2 cots separated by a hospital curtain. So pretty crude conditions. This project really was an addition, which was to be devoted to the personnel, and then repurposing the existing building and dedicating it just to the equipment. So the addition was about 4,400 square feet, and we just completed it last December, so a year ago. And as we completed it, they moved in, and they've been thrilled with it since. But very successful, and the town loves that. And their plans is to do a similar project for station number 3.
And then currently, we are under contract recently with the towns of Carlisle and North Andover for additional renovations and additions to each of their fire stations. Some of the things that we do as part of our normal course of action is to share with you our daily reports. We use an app-based program called Raken, and that is able to share with you the daily activity that goes on the site, from a number of people through work tasks, shares photographs. It will literally fill your inbox every day, so be careful what you ask for, but we'll be happy to share with you on a daily basis the activities that are occurring on the site. We use an estimating software, formerly MC Squared ICE, which is a very intelligent estimating software. I do all of the project estimates for the company. It formerly was a contractor and ran an estimating department for a general contractor. So if required to do so, we certainly have the capability of producing a professional estimate with accurate pricing based on real projects in central and Massachusetts anyway. Scheduling software, we are fluent in both P6, Microsoft Project, as well as other less sophisticated scheduling programs. And then as far as job costing, we do everything in a customized budget that we do with Excel. We're happy to share it with you. We've gotten a lot of compliments on the simplicity of our budget, in that we give you basically 6 categories of work, and all of the costs roll up to the front page of the project. So with a single page, you are able to see budgets, expenditures, cash remaining, and contingency, all summarized on one page. Very simple, very quick, but we've gotten a lot of feedback from our clients that they enjoy the fact that they don't need a master's degree in finance to understand their project and where their monies are being expended. We are fully adept and have a great experience in pre-qualifying contractors. I will spare you the details of the pre-qualification requirements. Suffice it to say, any project over $10 million in Massachusetts requires a pre-qualification of contractors. Whether you go Chapter 149, which is design bid build, or whether you go 149A, you're required to do the trade contractors, and then your selection of a CM, if you go 149A, acts as the pre-qualification for the general contractors under that that delivery method. But we have done multiple pre-qualification processes for projects all across the Commonwealth. And we understand it will be a requirement for this project as well, as it's originally conceived. In terms of field service and experience, we understand that we act as your first line of defense on the site. We recognize that we are your eyes and ears and your window into the site. So we take it very seriously, and we staff our jobs with very competent and very experienced construction professionals. We utilize and rely very heavily on our site representatives to report and to understand schedule management, the importance of field reporting and documentation, as well as quality control and understanding first inspections. We expect that our clerks are checking every bit of material that comes to the site against the submittals to make sure that it is in fact what was specified and submitted and approved. And then we also lean on them heavily to assist us in managing the change management as it occurs on the site. Everything from initial move-in and mobilization through closeout and punch list. I spoke a little bit about closeout. And our philosophy at CMS is that the closeout process begins quite early in the project. It begins with the owner's observations of how the building comes together, having an understanding and appreciation of all the components and parts that go into making the project successful. Our recording of the project becomes part of the closeout, as well as the compilation of the closeout documents as we get closer and closer to the completion of the project. We want to make sure that that information is stored appropriately so that it can be retrieved by you at any point, either during the project or as the project concludes during your first years of occupancy. And we believe very strongly that owner participation in that closeout process is key. We want you to have an appreciation and understanding of the project before you assume responsibility for it and operating it as you move forward. As I had mentioned before, we bring 25 plus years and 70 plus projects of experience to you. In addition, I think it's important to point out that we have an outstanding relationship with Tecton. We've worked with them on 8 past successful projects and have another 2 more in the pipeline with them now. We understand very strongly how to maintain schedule and budget, particularly in a post-COVID environment. We work very well either under Chapter 149 or 149A with early product procurement and owner-furnished contract installed items. We're still fighting a bit of the lead time issues that are plaguing the industry, particularly on electrical and mechanical items. But we try to work strategies into each project to mitigate the impacts of those. We understand fully the importance of pre-construction investigation. I mentioned it earlier, particularly as it relates to the site. We want to make sure that you have as much information available to you to manage the uncertainties associated with construction today. Believe strongly in the strength of documents. The form of the contract, the accuracy of the plans and specifications are very important. Again, I spoke to our experienced field representatives and our experience with 149 and 149A as project delivery methods. At the end of the day, I'm sure that you're speaking with several highly qualified firms, but we believe that our project leadership and our collaborative approach, particularly our experience with Tecton, sets us apart from our competition. We are a very solutions-focused and service-driven company, and it's a process that's delivered through the commitment and passion that we bring to every project that we represent. So we hope that you enjoyed our presentation, and we look forward to engaging in more questions and answers.
Thank you. So we have a set of 5 questions that we'd like to ask, and we've got 15 minutes-ish, so just keep that in mind. And so the first question is, what do you see as the largest challenge this project faces?
So I think with any project, I think budget is always the most challenging. It is getting better out there. I'll say that sort of cheekishly, but we still have to be very sharp in terms of our estimates, in terms of giving you a realistic budget for the scope and the project as it's been presented. And I think that there's an advantage to bring it to market as quickly as possible once you've established your scope and budget. So really leaning on the designer to have plans and specifications done quickly, accurately, and get the project out to bid. I actually have a preference for bidding during the fourth quarter and first quarter of every year. I think contractors, when they're cold and hungry, are the most aggressive. And I very much like to slot bids for November, December, January timeframe when they hit the street. So I think if we establish that schedule, I think it gives you the greatest opportunity for competitive pricing.
Next question. What is your plan to support the town vote, and how does that timeline compare to projects you've worked on recently?
So I think I think working with every community, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, it's not only understanding what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And I think to the greatest extent, communicating the why, if you will, is critical to any project. I think making sure that the needs are clear, making sure that they're established and well-defined, and monitored and shared with the community in a method that is appropriate, whether it be a project-specific website with frequently asked questions, or whether it is presentations with various boards and agencies. I think those are key to getting accurate and correct information into the community, as well as publishing it in a way that discourages misinformation related to a project. One of the cardinal mistakes we've seen people make is to put a project number out there too early. People will always remember a number. They won't remember size, they won't remember colors, but they'll always remember a number. So we want to make sure when that number gets out and it's public that everyone understands where we're coming from and how we got there.
How do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders, including contractors, designers, and internal decision makers?
So again, I think what's most important is that the project goals are clearly identified. I think that it's important to make sure that it's to the degree that you possibly can, that it is a common set of goals among all firms. I think it's important to listen to stakeholders and understand what their objections may be or where they may be coming from, or try to at least be empathetic to their concerns. And then I think back to my original point of understanding the why, having them understand why we're doing it, why the station is sized the way that it is. You know, make that information available. Let them review it. Let them understand that the apparatus bays are sized appropriately for not only today's equipment and apparatus, but also there's room for growth and expansion, so that we're not looking at another station 5 years from now. We want to make sure that it's appropriately forecasting growth and needs as they may change in the future.
Explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure project deliverables meet the owner's specifications.
So I touched on it earlier, but I'll be happy to re-detail. We rely heavily on our clerks and our site representatives. It starts with understanding the plans and specifications when they're issued for bidding. It's following the questions and answers that are raised during bids and how those questions are answered, and then carries through to the submittal process. Most contractors are using online submittal platforms, whether it's Procore or Submittal Exchange or other programs that are similar to it. When those products go through the submittal process, our clerks are reviewing them. They're looking at them for constructability and whatnot, and they are tracking those all the way through delivery. When the products hit the ground, they've got the submittal in their hands. It's right there on their tablet or their device, and they're checking it to make sure that it's in conformance with the products that are specified in the plans and specs. If we're asked to pay for stored materials that may be stored off-site, our clerks are at the forefront of going to those locations and reviewing the products in the field and making sure that we're not asking you to pay for something that isn't specified. And then all the way through the installation. You know, if you're putting in an HVAC unit, we're making sure that the doors and the ports that have to be accessible for maintenance reasons are in fact accessible and will be easily maintained by you in the coming years.
Just to add to that, we'll also be managing, bringing on a commissioning agent to manage overseeing the, bringing them in during design to proof the documents along with us, as well as when we're in construction, we'll be managing the special inspections by qualified third-party testing agencies, and our on-site field representatives will be, managing that on a day-to-day basis.
And the last one, what types of grants or other funding sources have you been able to secure for a project to offset the cost of the project?
So, we are certainly willing to work with each town, each municipality that we serve, to explore any grants that are available or that may be available to any project as we move forward. We were successful in Greenfield, working with the community and securing a grant from, I think it was the United States Department of Agriculture, for almost $1 million for that station. We've worked with member utility companies and filed for rebates on numerous projects from National Grid and Eversource as part of their heat pump and utility incentive programs. We've worked with a couple of grants on a recent library project where we've been able to secure trees, landscaping, and other greenscape products. That was on the Gloucester Library project. Anything else that I?
Also, the library project, MVP program grants are providing funding for photovoltaic and a
Yes.
battery storage system.
That's in Shutesbury. So we've had a pretty good track record. Again, a lot of it is project specific, and my recommendation would be the sooner that you can engage those various agencies, the better off that you'll be. Grants are often timely and also time consuming as well. So get your applications in early.
That's the last of the questions, so I guess we'd like to thank you guys for coming out and reviewing this with us.
Thank you very much. If you would, what is your general time frame for a decision? When do you expect to make an award?
We have presentations tonight and tomorrow night, and then we'll pass off to the town manager our top 3 picks, and then he'll engage in the negotiations with securing, the company at that point. So
excellent.
He's on board to do it as soon as possible. So
yeah, we
we're
know the
moving.
timeline is short. I mean, our hope would be to have everything finalized so we're at the ground beginning of January.
Terrific. Well, thank you all very much. I hope you have a enjoyable holiday, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you for considering CMS.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we're going to go into recess.
Mike's a hot.
All right, now it's 7:10, and we're on schedule for our next presentation from P3, Project Planning Professionals. Floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Pilato. I'm the president of P3. We're out of Norwell, Massachusetts, but all of our staff is literally all over the state. So just because we're a little bit of ways, I hope that that doesn't gig us. But we are, Rob lives right over the line in Connecticut. Mary lives in Blackstone. And I live in the town of Rowe, even though my office is in Norwell. I started P3 in 2008, December of 2008, because I was a selectman. I don't know if there's a selectman on this board, but I was a selectman, and we had an OPM that was a big, large firm. They could build a building, but they didn't understand how a town worked. They didn't understand how to get a vote. They didn't understand how a finance committee worked, how a building committee worked, and all the parts and pieces that go to a project other than just building the building. So I started P3, and since I've started P3, we've worked in about 50 to 51 communities, somewhere in there, if you count regionals. Our team is before you. Myself, I'm been doing local government for 30 years. I was a selectman, I was a moderator, I was on the planning board, and I was county commissioner. Plymouth County still has county commissioners. And I'm currently the finance chairman in the little town of Rowe. With me tonight is Robert.
Rob Tedisco, project manager with P3. Been with P3 and Dan for 14 or 15 years now, and in that time I've worked on a wide variety of municipal projects, small scale, medium scale, large scale. Recent experience would be medium to large size public safety projects similar to yours. I've completed smaller municipal level public safety projects, fire station projects, police. A lot of focus with schools, renovations, so a lot of experience with new construction, similar to yours, of course, renovations, new sites, demolition, which I know you're in the middle of to make way for this project. Dan and I work as a unit through most of the design, or actually all of the design phase, most of construction, closeout, and we look forward to getting started if we have the opportunity.
Yeah. Mary?
Mary Bolso. Hi. Welcome. Happy to be here. So I started as an OPM around 2010. Before that, I was in the field, construction, on the staging, and field engineer for some large power plant projects and whatnot. As an OPM, I did more public safety. Went to Dallas, Texas, to the International Chief of Police Association, and got certified in public safety buildings. It was a great seminar. In addition to that, similar to Dan, I'm also an elected official. I'm a two-term selectman in my town where I was on finance committee before that, so I do understand the budgets. I do understand the different methods that the municipalities have to go through to get to town meeting, get the ballot on time, and the way you have to sell it. We'll get into that a little later. So, Dan?
All righty, next slide, Robert. So We're trying to understand your needs. You hired a designer first. It looks as though the first project didn't come to fruition. You kept the designer and you pared back to go fire station only with the ability to add the police station. We want to help you get this passed. That's what we do. We have been extremely successful at getting our projects funded. This is a construction project, I get it, but it's really just another study if it doesn't get passed at the ballot box as well as town meeting. An educated town meeting always makes the right decision, and it's going to be our job, you and ours, to educate town meeting. Time is money, so we know you want to get to May, possibly May's town meeting. We're going to talk about that. P3 success. We are currently building the public safety in Taunton, Massachusetts. Taunton City Council blessed us with $77 million to build about 83,000 square feet of a public safety. To save money, we divided it up into 3 buildings with a pre-engineered building for the repair area, a burn building similar to what you have out here. It looks like you have a burn building out here. Similar to that burn building, and a functioning fire and police together. Both fire and police are in deplorable conditions. The police station's in a temporary space for the last 45 years. The project's coming in at $67 million. We're going to save Taunton $10 million from the appropriation that they won't have to borrow. Since we got our bids in and the construction's a little past 35% today, they announced the next phase of the project, which is we're going to do 5 fire stations, 4 fire stations, and study a 5th. They want to replace 3 of those fire stations, and we've been selected to be the OPM on that, and that study is just getting started. They want to do 1 every 2 years for the next 6 or 7 years. We were successful in Taunton. We were successful in other places because we blanket the community with education. We will spend as many hours as you tell us to. Coffees, local TV shows, boards of selectmen, finance committees, planning boards, whatever is necessary, traffic committees, energy committees, whatever is necessary to get a positive message out on this project. We are 53-1 at town meeting, and we have a perfect record at the ballot box. You want to talk about this slide, Robert?
So these are a couple of our past and current projects. On the left is a police and fire station for the town of Williamsburg. If you don't know, Williamsburg is a community out in the western part of the state, up 91, Northampton. It's a really interesting story with Williamsburg because they were fighting and scratching to make that building a reality for the last 10 plus years. They had hired 2 prior OPMs, an old architect, to do studies, how to spend their money, what should they do, where should they build a building, how big should the building be, what the program should be, and all of them failed. They all were dead on arrival because it was just too much. They couldn't afford it. They didn't have, a consistent storyline in terms of outreach. It was all over the map, so they finally started from scratch. They hired P3. We hired a new architect. We shepherded them through site selection. Even before we had an architect on board, we chose the site with the committee. We did public outreach. We did community events, public forums. We had narrowed in on a site that the town had an existing school building on. It was a 110-year-old school building that was decommissioned as a school 4 or 5 years prior, and it was sitting there vacant, but the town still loved the building. So there was a lot of local nostalgia for the building. A lot of people didn't want to take it down, so it was really up to us to work with the committee very carefully and methodically to get out the word that this was really the best option for the town. It was the best option for the fire department, the police department. They didn't have any plans to rebuild the school or renovate it for anything else, so Because of the successful nature of the outreach and the time we took to get the word out, the town ultimately agreed in favorable numbers at town meeting to move forward with taking that building down. The project went forward, and in terms of budget and schedule, we maintained the same theme from day one with outreach with the community, with the chiefs, that we have to remain practical. We have to be cognizant of cost. It was a really difficult market building that building. That building was $5 million, but at the time, the cost, the market was so unpredictable. Things have softened and cooled down for now, thankfully. But it was just it was a really tricky project, although it's small in nature, but sometimes the small jobs can be very complicated due to the nostalgia with the school, the political differences in town, and the history of the job and the outreach challenges. But ultimately, we opened the building about this time last year. They're delighted. Safe services, no issues with the building. They are thrilled. We actually had a little bit of money left over on that job, and they managed to spend it on solar panels to even better their situation with energy bills, things of that nature. So we're delighted for them. They're happy they got a new building, and it'll last them for a very long time. On the right, Lennox, out in the Berkshires, we are in the middle of construction with that one. It's going very well. We had a really tricky site that we inherited. We were brought on just after the town had gone through a schematic design exercise with the design firm. So we had to navigate some challenges getting out of the ground with the contractor. We did a lot of due diligence with change orders and things like that with unsuitable soils or unforeseen conditions that we somewhat accounted for, but we really worked well. We had to work well with the design team, the engineering firm, and a couple of liaisons from the building department to make sure we were getting what we were paying for. It's going really well. It's right on schedule. That's going to be opened later part of 2025, and that building's about 22,000 square feet. Came in under budget, and we're about to start ordering furniture for that. So it's going really well.
I could add to that. So I'd just like to add, similar to Williamsburg, I did the Brimfield Public Safety. 6 times they went before town meeting and never passed. And it's getting the word out, educating the public. One of the things that I did was any way you can bring the public into your existing station to show that they need it. Have the Little League sign-ups in the station. Have a touch-a-truck at the station where the coffee is inside. The parents have to go inside to see the building. The first day, the opening day of Little League, we had one fireman driving the truck. The other ones were shaking hands and kissing babies down the sides, getting a personal face to it. You remember me, Mr. So-and-so? Hey, how's it going, miss? That type of thing. So it's the public outreach that really is going to get it there.
So I read that the fire chief has done a run study, or the fire department has done a run study. We do an independent run study with JB Consulting, where they take 3 years of run data to show the community that moving the station from where it is today to where it's going to go is not going to hurt anybody, and everyone will meet the NFPA. You would think that this is a waste of time. It's not. It might be the difference between a pass and a fail. It might be 3 or 4% that are a little concerned that you're moving the fire station because they live near a fire station, and moving it down the street might not help them. But the data will show. Exactly what the fire chief's run study has already done. If you don't have a good graphic run study, we believe in this, and we believe that it should be part of the toolkit and selling to the town.
It was a really powerful tool in taunton because it was our way of showing that this is an objectively a good thing, and it wasn't built on subjective opinion or anything like that.
No,
So it was really powerful.
It wasn't coming from the fire department. It wasn't coming from the OPM. It wasn't coming from any of the stakeholders. It was completely independent. These are just the other fire stations that we've done. Rob touched on Williamsburg. Williamsburg, I know it's only a $5 million project, but it's like bigger than their budget. So, I mean, it was a big deal for that little town to build that. Plimpton Fire Department, we're currently working on their new $12 million headquarters. We were hired to do that 7 years ago. They opted to do fire and police. We did the police first, working on fire now. And the Moody Street Fire Station was a renovation in Waltham. Approach to management, we can all chip in on this. It's budget, schedule, and quality control of all the materials that are going to go into the building. And that begins the day we're hired. We need to meet with the architects and make sure the architects aren't going off the leash with some weird things and crazy designs and some proprietary specifications that are going to cost the fire chief in operations, whether it's an HVAC system or whether it's going to cost the town a little more money because the architect, wants something special. We'll go through, make a list. You guys choose. We'll include it, not include it. Overseeing the construction, we're not going to talk much about that here tonight. We will if you want us to. But until you have the vote, you don't have construction. And we want to get you to the vote. We're getting the construction part. All of our clerks work for P3, and we'll bring all of them in, and you can select which one you want to be your clerk. To bring one in today and say this is going to be your clerk would be misleading you because no one knows the exact start date of that particular project, and I'm not going to lie to you. So we'll be happy to talk that after we get past town meeting.
So the quality control actually begins.
The quality control begins with the designer.
With the designer, going through the documents, reviewing constructability, we really dig into the drawings to see, we want to avoid change orders if possible. There's always change orders, but whatever we can do to review constructability.
Right. I mean, if any of you are in the public trades, you understand what we're talking about. So we want to try and give you the best set of documents possible. We're that extra fresh set of eyes. You've been working on this with the same designer, so sometimes you don't. Sometimes you might trust a little more, and sometimes you need a push by the OPM. That doesn't mean we're right and the design is wrong, or the contractor's right and we're wrong, right. The ultimate decision is always the town of Auburn. But we are going to give you our opinion, and we will follow your opinion, your votes to the letter of the T, even if we don't agree with it. So, onward.
And although it's not bulleted here, but all of this really begins with us setting up communications. How do we communicate what's going on with the project? We've been talking a lot tonight about outreach out to the greater community, but all that starts between this table and that table. How are we getting the information to you? How do we want the architect to get the information to you? Because if we're not all understanding the same documents, the same narratives, then the outreach is not going to be consistent. So it's on us to kind of set and regroup. We know we're not the first at the table. You've had Tecton for a while, and that can be a different thing from them. They're used to working with the chief, working with the committee, but now that we're coming in, so we might have to reset a few things just to make sure we're all understanding it, make sure we're included, and we're able to do our due diligence looking on the prior work. But the communication standards is where all this starts, and it's essential.
The most important piece to this project is securing the funding. I hate to say it, but it is. I've looked at your override and your debt exclusion votes in the past, and you don't have a very good success record in Auburn. We're going to change that. We're going to educate the public. They're going to see the need, and they're going to drive with big smiles to town meeting and to the ballot box to vote for this project. And that is the key. And we want them. We are going to, we're going to get a consensus from the selectmen, the finance committee, the fire department. There's always one or two on each board that is yes is you, but they're not really. Their heart's not in it. We're going to get everybody's heart in it. We're going to get everybody excited about this project. We're going to educate the community, and we don't need to educate the stakeholders because you guys are already volunteered to sit through 7 of these interviews, so you know exactly what you got to deal with. The public trust, transparency is huge. We QR code all our jobs. We brand all our jobs. We're going to brand your job so that when someone in town sees the logo or the color or the QR code or whatever we all agreed to be as our banner, they can take their phone, tap it, and get every document on this project. Every single document. That is an absolute must. When you're open and transparent with the public will come along. They will want to follow this project. They're gonna wanna read up on what's going on. So, you know, all of these meetings that you have that are on cable TV, they can be QR code and linked over to wherever they're coming out of. And same with the town website, and if you have your own website for this particular project, we will help you with all of that. This is, you know, I could go over it and over it and over it again. There's 100 different ways to reach the public. We've probably done 99 of them. There might be one that we haven't done yet. In Wilmington, I think we sent out 13 newsletters before we had the vote. We let everybody know every single step of the way to get the vote for their new town hall. There's nothing harder than getting a vote for a town hall. No one wants to vote for a town hall. So we can get it done. If we can get it done in Wilmington, we can get it done here.
But this slide just shows that we continue the outreach efforts, you know, all the way through the job, not just until town meeting passes it, especially during construction. Community really loves construction phase community outreach newsletters, rather. We post photographs and we'll provide narratives of what's happening on that site. That, you know, that particular month we're pouring concrete. This is what goes into that. This is the prep involved. Photographs, narratives. Sometimes we'll fly drones. We'll take videos. We'll post them to the site. And people really seem to engage with that, and we keep it consistent all the way through the end.
I did one slide for construction, just to show you that we're just like everybody else. We follow the same tools in the toolbox as everybody else. We average less than 2% of changes on new buildings. This is a new building. We would advise you to go design, bid, build, not CM at risk, because CM at risk is town at risk. And you want to do this design, bid, build. It's harder for us. It's harder for the designer, and it's harder for you. But it's going to be a lot cheaper for the taxpayer. And that's ultimately who we're working for. And that's just showing your Taunton building going up. It looks pretty close to the rendering. It actually looks the same. We were shocked. And we're here to answer questions.
All right. So just to keep consistency, we've had 5 questions that we're going to run through that we're asking everybody. So we might go backwards on or rehash some stuff you've already gone over, but we have to do that. So number 1, what do you see as the largest challenge that this project faces?
What do you think I'm going to say? It's the vote. It's the vote. And the reason I say it's the vote and not the site and not stormwater or the design is because all those things can be worked on. All those things can be corrected. The vote can't. We have to get the vote. Without the vote, I wasted 6 months. You wasted 6 months. Some of you have wasted years, and we're not going to do that. We're going to get the vote.
Okay. Unfortunately, what is your plan to support the town and how to get the vote, put it across? I mean, I know you've already covered that quite a bit in here,
Well,
but
I didn't
like
cover
I said,
it all.
it's
We can probably add to it. We want you to remember us. You got 7 of these. You guys might forget our name by the time you get done. Look, I wasn't kidding when I said we'll do whatever. We are a small firm, all right? And we don't charge by the hour. We charge by the job. If I have to come out here 15 times, I'll come out 15 times. I don't have to answer to a mothership in Texas or Connecticut or some of these other big giant firms that are doing nothing but sending fees to their motherships. We're a local firm. We do what we do because we love what we do. Rob's been with me 14 years. I think it's 15, but I probably have to get him a 15-year pin, all right? Mary and I have been doing projects together for 10 years, and I almost every one of our employees stays because we love what we do. We have a great team, and we get it done. So that is going to translate to all of the outreach, that upbeat, happy, it's hard to explain. We're gonna go into some of these outreach sessions and open forums, and we're gonna have some curmudgeons. All right? Every town has one. You guys know who they are. You haven't told me who they are yet, but you will. All right? We'll handle it. We'll be professional. We're gonna change them to be proponents. We can do it. If they understand the project, they understand the problem, they will turn. Not everybody, you're not gonna get 100%, but we're gonna shoot for 90. I want that town meeting vote to be so loud that the moderator just bangs his gavel, and off we go to the ballot. And that's the goal.
So I guess the second part of that question is, comparing the timeline that we're looking at right now to recent projects and whether you think it's a doable timeline.
May?
Yeah.
With a DD estimate, yes. If we have a DD estimate, I'd be comfortable going to May. It would mean that we start outreach January 5th.
Yep.
Literally right away. Megan, who does all of our marketing, who put together that nice little book, she would immediately meet with the chairman and start the process of getting stuff together for the next meeting that we have so that you could vote on banners and things like that. Because I'm not kidding. Outreach has to start right away. All right? We need to be open and transparent all the way through. And then we have to sit down and make a schedule. When are we meeting with the finance committee? When are we meeting with the planning board? When? All these small little things have to happen, even if we're not getting their permits. We don't want to go to town meeting and have someone from the planning board say, that's the first time I've ever seen this project. Because that'll be death knell. We want everybody that has a permit state to see the rough drafts. We want everybody that has a financial state to see the rough drafts. We want to step by step all the way through. And we're going to follow it. But the DD estimate is key. I wouldn't want to put your taxpayer in the position of passing money that hasn't been thoroughly vetted. At DD, it'll be thoroughly vetted, so that we'll have final numbers for the entire project. Because the numbers you have in your head might be high, or they might be low. We'll vet it.
Yep. Okay. Just kind of going further in, not just with the town people, but how do you effectively manage communication and expectations with diverse stakeholders, including contractors, designers, and internal decision makers?
That's a great question. The communication starts at the very beginning. So we look at all of our projects like a three-legged stool. Owner, designer, contractor. One of the legs goes, you follow. All right? So we have to get along with your architect. We are doing a project with Tecton now in Monson. But we have to get along with your specific designer, and you're watching us. You know him. You have to make a decision psychologically whether that's going to melt, because it's important. And then when the contractor gets on, we have to take the lowest responsible bidder, not necessarily the best of the lot, but the lowest responsible as defined by Mass General laws. We will work to make them a part of that stool, even if they have a bad reputation. We have contractors on a lot of jobs where people have warned us and said, you're going to get crushed. We've never been crushed. We've always had successful projects, and we have never gone back to town meeting for additional funds. Never, ever gone back. The only time we went back was when the owner asked to change the scope. That's not my fault. So we have to make that three-legged stool.
So it's also the part of professional courtesy. When something's starting to slip or go away, don't let it fester. I go head-on, face-to-face, have a discussion with whatever's going on. Whether the person that was assigned from the architectural team isn't cooperating or has a different idea that they want to go for and they're pushing, pull in a meeting and get together and discuss it. And I've had success just being open and heading it right off.
The weekly construction meetings will catch all the problems. The question of whether the problems get solved by the designer, the contractor, and the OPM will be up to the OPM pushing the project.
All right, I know you kind of bounced off of it, but we're gonna ask it anyway. If you could explain your process for quality control and inspections to ensure the project deliverables are met and, meet the owner's specifications?
So that begins in design. It really does begin in design. We have to prevent the design from being a problem design. We don't want to design a building that's a monument to Tecton. We want to design a building that is efficient for the town of Auburn, but, relatively handsome enough to fit in the neighborhood that it's going. We need to, when it comes time to go to construction, any of you that are in construction would understand the process. Every screw, every nut, every hinge, concrete, rebar, everything gets submitted to the architect for approval. If we've vetted those materials before we went to bid, once they go to the lucky contractor and they get approved by the designer, those approved manufacturers of that particular part, piece, or material will come to us, and we have to make sure that that is what you got in the field. We have to log all of that in. We track it all. We track the percentage of construction. We take thousands of pictures. We drone the site every other day, even if it's just for a quick thing. And hopefully we never have to look them up. The best thing in the world is we never have to look at all these pictures, because some of them are pretty damn boring to look at. The good ones we put on the website. The ones that aren't so good, like how many knots are in a rebar tie, I mean, we can catch things that way. But only if there's a problem do we ever have to go back. We haven't had to do that. On our project, we think we've got the winning formula. And I'm not trying to be overly upbeat, but we've had a pretty good success rate.
Okay. A big one. What type of grants or other funding sources have you been able to secure for a project to offset the cost of the project?
I gotta go now. Unfortunately, there aren't many available, and don't be blindsided by everyone telling you there are not. Your best bet to offset the final bonding cost is to work on your state senator and your state rep to get some earmarks. Direct earmarks are probably the quickest way you're going to get money. If you choose to go with a... Is everybody going to leave?
No.
If you choose to go with an extremely green building, there are a lot of grants out there through the Inflation Reduction Act, especially for geothermal and solar. But I'll be honest with you, I'm concerned that program won't be there by the time we get to construction. With the new administration coming in, I don't know what's going to happen with a lot of the previous administration's programs. So, we're going to have to look at it, because you can't afford geothermal, you can't afford solar. In general, they don't pay back. You can lie and pretend, and everybody hold hands, and we're saving Mother Earth, but they don't have a payback unless you get the incentive from the federal government. So the Inflation Reduction Act, it gives you that incentive, and it does help. With regard to energy savings, you'll get crumbs from Mass Electric or whoever your local provider is, whether it's the grid or the Edison, whoever it is. They have a statewide program. We all put a quarter of a penny into our bill, and they give us crumbs back for using LED lighting and so on and so forth. Are you a green communities? So you have the super stretch energy code? That's going to add a lot of cost to the fire station. It's almost impossible to even meet it with fire station doors that open. And you have the seals around the door. So there's a lot of things that we have to work on with the building department to get interpretations of how they're going to enforce that code. So there's a lot of parts and pieces to this. But as for the grant part of it, I mean, other than the crumbs you're going to get from the utilities, I would start working with your state rep and your state senator and I'll be more than happy to drive up to Beacon Hill and explain to them why they need to do this. Worcester does very well with earmarks. Worcester County. As a county commissioner from Plymouth, we got nothing. You guys were always scooping up all the grants out here. But Western Mass got nothing. Essex and Worcester got all the grants.
All right.
That takes us through
That it?
Programmed questions and stuff, yes.
Now remember us. We were the fun ones. You got 3 years of meeting. Do you want to be sitting with someone who's dull? By the way, we are who you're going to see. We don't swap out people. So I'll be doing, Rob and I will be doing meetings. Mary will be doing construction meetings. So between the three of us, you'll see us three. And then when we get a clerk of the works, we'll bring them in and have you interview the clerk of the works.
Okay.
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your selection. God help you for going through 7. You could have thrown out all of them that weren't green.
scoring. We'll talk about scoring here before we get going.
You don't need them. Use them.
Oh, yeah, we'll take them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ah, the best.
Oh, do we
Good luck.
keep those sheets out? Are we giving you those tonight?
No.
Thank you.
No.
I wanna talk through some process after
Okay.
they go.
Thank
you.
you.
Can I, just, we may need another meeting just to talk about it after, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk through what my idea of kind of how to handle this, since we got only 3 today and 4 tomorrow. So I guess our mission is we have to provide the top 3 candidates. So my suggestion was we just try to come up with a stack ranking of, let's just rank them 1 to 7. And then we can provide the top 3 in order. They do need a preferred, number 1, but I think we should just do it. The component of that, this is one component, and so everybody at some point needs to rate the 5 questions on a 1 to 5 scale for each, and then we can get a score on the question answers for each one. And then my suggestion was that would be 25 potential points. Possibly we just have a similar 25 point just for the proposal and the presentation and the fit. Just each individual committee member could then also assign, because this doesn't cover everything that you're going to want to evaluate for an OPM, right? So none of this, there's no questions here about schedule management, right? We just don't have time to ask them all. So I was thinking some component where each person would also score the proposal in terms of how we feel it best fits the needs and sort of whether that's 25 points or we give it another 5. We come up to some kind of composite score. So there's 25 points to award on these sheets, and then I guess I'd be open for discussion on what other, like how many points do you want to give yourself to just say personally I like this one first and second, and is that a 10 or just stack rank them yourself and we just add it up? 7 points for the number 1 vote and 1 point for the number 7 vote, and that becomes your total there.
Through the chair, I was sort of, as I was doing my evaluations, was sort of inserting some of those rankings into the questions. They kind of went with the presentation given, my personal feel on the people that are presenting, as well as the documents they presented. So I was sort of adjusting my 1s through 5s on those individual scores, knowing that I had a sort of total of potential 25 sort of within my rankings. But again, and then I just think as a second point for discussion is, if we don't have the same number of people here tonight, you potentially could, if we're doing a cumulative score divided, however we come up with, we have to ensure we have the same. If there's half of us here tomorrow, those vendors obviously would have not a.
Yeah, we'd have to do an average.
We'd have to figure out somehow to manage what those numbers look like.
Yeah, to the chair. Each firm has got some strengths, okay? Some of them being in municipal management, some of them being in design criteria, some of them being in construction management, okay, and turn-up and test site certification. So where do we, as a group, think that we need the greatest push, if you will? I mean, if you got a great design, a great build, and you're not concerned about your quality, okay, but you are really concerned about getting it through town meeting, which group are you going to go with? Okay, so what do we as a group think our greatest liabilities are? Is it in the design? Is it in the construction? Is it the overall construction performance testing?
I think based on the fact that we're going through this process, well, one of us is going through this for a second time, getting it through town meeting is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think our objective at the outset was to put forward to town meeting and the public the most appropriate, cost-effective building that we can. And so I would think that is probably still the primary, and obviously it has to get through the votes in order to move forward, and that's probably a very close number 2 on my list. You know, because obviously if it doesn't go through the vote, then we're done for a long time, right? So, yeah, I mean that's kind of how I still think we need to concentrate on what's going to give us the best project proposal to present to the town, and then I think secondarily it is how is an OPM going to help us, present that, right? Because I think we need some help there.
Yeah, community outreach and stuff, yes, absolutely.
I was going to say, through the chair, I think the 5 questions you selected were a good representation of the entire bits and pieces of the entire process. So, again, I think for simplistics, 25 points is what we have to allot, and whether you want to assess on those 5 questions, I think that is. Otherwise, I think we're going to complicate it a little bit too much to say, we're going to add this many points for a presentation and this many points for the materials presented, and I think we're just complicating it more than we need to.
Yeah, I think, mostly just thinking, even if we had a 6th question that was just, what's your overall impression? Or, something like that, just as a catch-all for anything that maybe, because we did kind of sort of had to pick and choose out of the questions in order to fit it into the time, right, allocated. So that, but I guess I would leave it up to everybody else if they want to just use the 25 point against the questions. I assume that's, like, we'll have to submit these to town manager with, with our recommendation.
Everything that you do on that paper is a matter of public record, so
right.
Just keep that in mind as you're writing things on that paper.
Yeah.
It is discoverable. But, to your point, at some point, everybody met the minimum qualifications to be here tonight. But a scoring of those packets will have to be done in terms of how do they, and usually the ranking is like advantageous, highly advantageous. So the second part to that is that the committee will need to rate each of these packets on a score sheet that, I can provide tomorrow, but wasn't something that needed to be done tonight.
Okay.
But the committee is going to have to rank those packages in terms of how they compare to the RFP, in terms of what is an advantageous or a highly advantageous firm.
Okay, well then that I think covers what I was looking for, which is basically, I want to, rank the overall, presentation pitch, what they're delivering, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Through the chair, I mean, I think the presentation was 3/4 of the interview. I think if we didn't rank it on some level, it's like, well, then why did we do that? We didn't get through half the questions. Just based on the 5 questions, I wouldn't say that's enough. And kind of like you said, even, I guess, the personal feelings for what you thought of what they were saying, some of the stuff they said, either you agreed with or didn't agree with, I think is appropriate. But I guess I'd be open to, how do you...
Could we, I guess we would have a scoring of the proposal as that, strongly or not strongly, or we could put it on a 5-point scale probably and just say, that's this plus 1 through 5 on that, and then that will give us an average or a cumulative. I mean, we'll have to figure out if we have the same number and deal with that tomorrow, but that would then let us, come up with a ranking that we could, I guess, vote on, I suppose.
I don't believe that the town form that they have is a number-based system. It's advantageous, highly advantageous, or it might even be not advantageous. They're ranked in that category.
Okay.
And that's typically by how the state wants.
Do you think that would be enough? Or do you want to just say our 6th question is the proposal, and you just give 5 more, give a 1 through 5 on the proposal?
I mean, realistically, their presentation for the FOMOS, besides maybe the granting, they covered every question in there, so it was like a repeat of them just doubling back. So, in the I don't know. I feel like the presentation was probably the bigger part of everything with them. Well, the 3 that we saw.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm suggesting, I guess, is that there's probably things that are presented that we didn't get a chance to ask a question about. So I want an opportunity to let everybody give that a score. When they talk about, other things that they're doing, construction management and design work and things that we didn't have a chance to ask questions about. Pre-construction vetting, right? We didn't have a question about that, but everybody put something in their proposal about, vetting, potential contractors, so.
Yep. But if we're ranking their proposals on how we felt about them and everything, you're addressing that. I mean, I think the presentation is something that is definitely key to it.
Is there an appetite to make a 6th set of 5 points? It's just the proposal?
So is this the only time that we have to meet with them, or do we narrow it down and can we have like a more elaborate interview with them, or is this?
We have to pick 3, and then
that's it.
Give it to the town manager, and then he'll go and negotiate from there. Obviously, start with the top one, and then work their way down, and then that'll be it.
And I think timeline-wise, could we get this done tomorrow?
We're gonna be here till like 10 o'clock.
Could that be done in executive session? What is that?
The ranking of the proposals, it doesn't have to be done in an open session at all.
I guess that's my question.
The proposals, when we receive RFPs, those are typically done like offline, not in a public meeting. You're not expected to rank those in public. Typically, the chief procurement officer or the department head would rank the proposals, and then they're submitted to the procurement officer. So that's something that the committee could do offline.
So if we had a score sheet that had a 6th question, and that score sheet, we just write our numbers very simply off of each one. It would be one sheet with however many columns, and we could just turn that into town administration to calculate for, they could come up with their averages and just take their rankings based on the score sheets that they would. So we wouldn't have to sit here and start doing math.
I think so. The only thing that I'm not clear on is if we would need a vote to
give the 3
to approve our 3.
I think we need to rank them, come up with 3, and then just say this is the 3 and not in any specific order.
We have to give a most preferred.
No, we have to give a most preferred. And
Need someone to negotiate that
rating on
first.
the 3.
Put an Excel spreadsheet with all the
That'd be-
formulas in it.
yeah.
Tomorrow, you just enter the numbers and it spits it out.
Well, I could, I mean, that can be done. I can probably get that done. The question is, does the committee have to vote to approve that list? Or can we vote maybe today on the scoring process that would then say, hey, once we submit it all, somebody else could calculate it and we've approved the methodology, so that's approval.
Through the chair, I think if we went into recess and you had an Excel sheet on your computer that you could punch stuff in quick, and we come back and you've scaled and say this is the rankings, we approve it, and we name off the 3 that ranked in the order, and we put that on the record as part of the minutes. I think that is the most appropriate way to do it.
I think we can get it all done. I mean, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
have to go, I mean, we've been through this tonight, you know, hopefully everybody's looked at stuff and looked at more stuff for tomorrow, and, you know, they'll go through all tomorrows and stuff, so I may have a pretty good idea how I'd rank the three as they stand right now, but,
too.
you know, we'll see, you know, in terms of, you know, putting down the numbers on their stuff, and, yeah.
The last item I had, can we divide and conquer to call some references tomorrow? During the day? Does anybody have time to like take one and shoot out a couple emails to the references that they list, just to see if we, because the main thing for me that I've learned in my life is ask the references, because sometimes you find the red flags. You know, most people will give you references that are going to say great things about you. When you find one that doesn't give a glowing positive review of somebody, then you know there's a problem. And so I think it's worthwhile to follow up on references. Otherwise, I guess I know I could do at least one of them and just shoot out some emails tomorrow just to see if we get something back. But
Just so you know, his family is sick, so he's watching on YouTube. He just texted me and said he can do references.
Can he do all of them?
He probably knows a lot of them, that's the thing. Did they all list
He's home with sick
references?
kids, so I just asked.
I don't know if I can do it during the day.
Just an
And
email,
it's
so
whether
I
you
can
can,
definitely send some
in
out.
1 day's time, I don't know how.
Yeah,
The
response,
question is, yeah,
the
if
response
you can
rate
get
and
anything
stuff.
back.
Well, then you add
And then
you add,
subjectivity.
then you add, how do you rate
Yeah.
the reference replies?
How risky would it be for you to put in a document a list of references, okay, that aren't really going to be in your favor?
I
agree.
agree, but my experience is that people do it because they want to put it on there and they're scraping the barrel.
I know, some of the towns showed up twice in those documents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a job movement around with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Or personnel movement.
Yeah.
You know, went from one company to another company or something, and so they list that job twice.
Alex said he could do all 7.
Oh, well then,
He's the best.
Now, the other thing we've got to be concerned about, okay, is the quality of the document, okay, could be how strong their office administrator is, okay, in putting together the document.
Right.
Okay, so is it marketing or is it substance?
well, for me, I would be looking at the actual content and not how fancy the proposal was necessarily. Like, each of them outlines sort of how they would approach everything, and I think in pretty good detail, so, and I think enough difference between them that I could say, hey, I like this approach better than that approach. I mean, you know, obviously everybody tries to make, you know, the fanciest proposal they can, but
Through the chair, I would support adding an additional question for that Excel spreadsheet to assess the presentation as a whole, whether it's the written and the, you know, the physical presentation. I think when you get into recommendations, now you're into a difficult place as to how you would rate that and assess that and review whatever Alex finds and what his feedback was. That's gonna be a tough one to put a
subjective,
number on.
right.
It's subjective. So I wouldn't really, I don't think we should go down that at this stage. If that's something administration wants to go into relative to taking those top 3, town administration,
maybe that's our recommendation then, is that this is our top 3, but follow the references when you're getting ready to do the contract. I guess that would be, they should be checked before we award a contract, but I guess we don't necessarily need to evaluate the references. We just, it just needs to happen before we issue a contract to them. So.
I think the one thing that you got to keep in mind too in references, these are different than references like if you were applying for a job, you're going to pick 3 people who are going to say good things about you. That sort of is an unknown in this because they're not necessarily picking people that can say good things. They're picking places where they did projects. So that project either went well or it didn't. And someone's going to be able to say it went well or it didn't. So to Joe's point, yeah, on the surface you say, well, you're not going to list a reference. But if they did a $20 million project, and even if it didn't go well, they're not going to leave out a $20 million project that they built. So that is the slight difference with those references. So I think, to your point, it is gonna raise maybe some of those red flags, you know, depending on how that shakes out.
I think we should get the references and just forward them on as they come in to town administration and just, or we could even leave it to them to follow up on references on the top three, I guess.
So Alex just said that he is going to email all of the references on all 7 firms tonight, and then he will make follow-up phone calls tomorrow during the day.
And we can just forward that with as part of our,
I think just whatever he comes up with, whatever he gets back, we would just forward that to town administration as part of the process, and they can do with it what they want, I guess. But yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to formalize the scoring then?
Well, I mean, what we talked about, I mean, obviously I have the sheets, the
need to
5
vote
questions
on
with the 5, 1 through 5 on it. I think the packet, we can do the same thing, 1 through 5, you know, same type of thing, and then then their actual physical presentation. So give you a total of 35 points. And then hopefully, as we call out that number, the top 3 are gonna rise up pretty quick, so.
I can put a spreadsheet together. for them.
Should we try to do something and rank tonight? Even if we just do it amongst ourselves while it's fresh?
I would not recommend that.
Yeah.
I would take all the interviews first and all the presentations first.
I hope you remember it all.
Pencil it in if you want.
It's a lot
That's
to
what I'm
remember.
I mean, you can pencil in on your own, you got your sheets, you can pencil in.
Individually.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what
I
I'm
made
saying. I'm
notes.
not saying
Yeah, I
as
think
a
if-
committee, we put anything forward, but just while we're all here and it's fresh.
I think maybe not on the sheet, maybe put it on the, maybe so it's not part of the record yet, but put like where you're leaning tonight, because you may change your mind after you see 4 presentations tomorrow, and then we can commit that to the record once you, because I don't, you know, otherwise you have to scratch it out and.
Never mind.
So, all right. So, okay. That's all I have.
All right. Any other discussion?
So just to summarize, we're gonna rank each question, 1 through 5. Rank the presentation of tonight, and then rank the booklet.
Right.
Okay.
Same type of 1 through
1
5,
through
and then we'll tabulate all this stuff, and hopefully the cream will rise to the top. All right, so if there's no other discussions, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn for tonight. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. See you tomorrow night.
Thanks for your support.